You're the guy that always knows songwriters. You have to ask some questions. Hi, I'm Art Fein. It's Art Fein's Poker Party coming to you from Hollywood with a very special guest. And, it's Spencer Davis. Welcome to the show, Spencer.
Hello, Art. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you here. And another very special guest, Todd Everett, my proofreader, among other things. I got this here new book. Oh, great. There it is. Got this here new book, which is the same as the old book. Well, it's the same as the old book, LA Musical History Tour, with another 102 extra entries. So
it's a different format. It's a different size.
And different mistakes.
Different publisher, different typos.
So
it's published by Henry Rollins, so you know it's hip.
That's right. So we're mighty happy to have Spencer. And
it had been published by Peter Townsend, which is hip too.
But that's right. Now it's favorite. That's right. Favorite. That's right.
Now it's published by Henry Rollins.
That's good. Todd, you're taking up too much time. We got to talk to Spencer about his illustrious career. I've been reading on your bio. Of course, we know about the Spencer Davis Group's big hits in '66, '7. Is that what it was?
66, 67. That's they actually started '65 with Keep On Running, which went to '1 at the end of '65, replaced the Beatles. We Can Work It Out, and Day Tripper. So that puts that chronology there.
Okay. We were talking right now about the intro, the very distinctive intro to "Gimme Some Lovin'." I could only hear the bass, dung, 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 but you're pointing out to me what?
Well, I was playing the same line on a guitar, an octave above Muff Winwood, who was the bass player, Steve's elder brother, and we combined those together on one track, and that's what made the bass sound so distinctive, because it was also a guitar playing in unison with it.
Had you done that before, or was this something that came up in the studio, or?
The closest to that was playing a 12-string when you get two of the strings in unison, and I thought this would reinforce that would push that bass idea.
Was there a producer as such? Or?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we've been speaking. If he were alive today, his ears would be burning. It was Jimmy Miller.
Oh, really?
Chris Blackwell brought Jimmy into our lives, into the band's lives, after Keep On Running, which was essentially two guitars, bass, and drums sort of lineup. And the whole idea was to Americanize the band, to make it, this is why Jimmy was brought in. And it was definitely a step from there up to here. I mean, he was a wonderful producer. Went on to do the Rolling Stones. And some work I've just been doing recently, his name has cropped up so frequently. It's amazing.
Speaking of Give Me Some Lovin', this is a real party atmosphere. Was there overdubbed shouts, or was everybody just having a good time?
The overdub shouts. That's a fairly decent description. They were some of the guys that were to be Traffic later on. Same with I'm a Man, also a distinctive thing. But to Give Me Some Lovin', there were two versions. There's a very stark version where there are no background vocals, and that was the single that was released in England. And so for the record collectors, they go out when they hear that, but those are in the know already have and say, aha, I have the European version. And
excuse me, I got a call.
It's for you.
How do I turn this off?
Just answer it. We'll go ahead and talk.
Okay, go on. Ask them some questions.
Anyway, so they specifically put on the extra stuff for the American version?
So what we did was to overdub, add a piano on, a little piano figure, which is Steve, of course, and then we all did background vocals, which weren't, as I say, on the European version. Gimme some lovin'.
Steve being little Stevie Winwood, a fellow, I don't know whatever happened to him after he left you guys, but I know the Beatles did that occasionally. A couple of times they put on extra stuff for the American release of their singles too. Early on, it didn't happen much, but I don't know why they thought America either needed more raucous sound or why England had to be so sedate.
Well, that's the way it is.
Actually, it's sort of the way it is. Yeah, never mind.
Right. They drink tea and stuff.
Interesting call.
No, not at all. The wrong number.
For the real trivia.
It's the first time this has ever happened in however many hundreds of shows have been done.
I'm sure it hasn't happened before. People forget to turn the cellular phone off. For the trivia buffs, again, if you remember, there were two versions of Let It Be. There was the single version of Let It Be and the album version of Let It Be. And how you spotted it was the guitar solo. On the single version, maybe if I got it the wrong way around, somebody will no doubt tell me. But on the single version, I think the guitar was straight. On the LP version, it went through a Leslie speaker. So it was the same solo, but a different effect.
Was there a Spencer Davis group prior to the Winwood brothers joining you, or is that the constituency of the original SDG?
As was the case with a lot of those bands from Britain that emerged in the 60s, they'd also been doing stuff in the 50s, and I was no exception. In terms of playing what was to be American-style rhythm and blues, at the tender age of 15, 16, I bumped into Long John Baldry playing in a club called the Gyre and Gimbal, which was located by Charing Cross Station. I think the building's still there, but it's now a betting office, bookie's office.
Everything in London is a booking, a betting office, or a Burger King, or McDonald's, rather.
That's right. I think Las Vegas is so far away, they've got to have their own. Betting on horses has been an English pastime.
Or phone cards, too.
Before the Boston Tea Party, I can assure you. But bumped into Long John Baldry at the Gyre and Gimbal, which was essentially a coffee house.
That's the Gyre?
The Gyre and Gimbal.
Gyre?
Lewis Carroll.
G-I-R-E.
It was Brillig and the Slidey Toves,
Okay.
the Gyre and Gimbal.
Excuse me.
That's where it comes
I
from.
listen to music, I don't read.
Well, those
Jabberwock.
intellectual, pseudo-intellectual names were quite popular there.
Yeah.
But that's what was going on at that period. So I actually, when I was working in London, I was working for Her Majesty, the one that McCartney sings about, of course. And so the band that I put together then was the Skiffle Group. We called it the Saints, for want of a better name. We did stuff like Midnight Special, but I was into Buddy Holly, and so we did Oh Boy. And those two titles I mentioned made up the first record I ever made.
And what was the Spencer Davis record?
It's just,
Or a band name?
we called it the Saints at the time.
What label was it on?
My own.
Okay.
I think it became an ashtray. My cousin in Swansea decided to, I don't know how they got hold of it, because making records was, we went into a recording studio, and
So
if Elvis can do it, we can do it.
In '66, I remember the Moody Blues couldn't get over here because they couldn't demonstrate uniqueness or some kind of a need for a British artist here. There was that trade problem. You didn't have any troubles touring in that point.
Except for the fact that Steve Winwood never made it with us when we had the hits in '67. So when the Spencer Davis group came over here, Steve stayed and was working on doing Traffic, and I got Eddie Hardin. Peter York stayed with me, of course, and we had another guitar player called Phil Sawyer, who was from Shotgun Express, and then we moved in Ray Fennick. Fine guitar player, excellent guitar player.
Was that because Steve couldn't get in for some reason or another, or because he was busy doing Traffic?
Oh, no, Steve did, the last tour that the Spencer Davis group did was at the peak of their success in the UK and the USA. Whoever's balmy idea it was for the band not to capitalize and get this kid known in America, I would point the finger at Chris Blackwell, and later on, of course, I will point more fingers at him when the occasion demands. However, no, there were no drug problems, no age problems, nothing like that at all.
No visa problems.
No visa problems. No, he just decided he was going to play in the Traffic, and that's what he did.
So wasn't he under contract to you guys or something, or was it?
There was no such animal in those days where we would get a member under contract. When I recruited Steve, from my own band, which was called the Spencer Davis Rhythm and Blues Quartet, but because of the NRBQ, we decided to change it. And since I was known, before I had Steve in the band, I was working with a young lady called Christine Perfect. Later on, Christine McVie, of course. It never occurred to me to have Christine in the band, but I wasn't averse to the idea.
What were you doing with Christine then, if not playing with her?
Musically, we're talking here.
Yes.
That's precisely what we were doing.
But you didn't want her in the band?
No, it never occurred to me. I mean, when I put the band together, I had a gig at the Golden Eagle that I'd actually done the week before on my own, and the managers fired the rock and roll, the 50s rock and roll band with the dyed hair and the guitars behind the back. Great band called the Renegades. I felt awful because I just happened to be there at the right time at the right place when rhythm and blues was sweeping the country, the UK. And they said, can you bring a band? And I had to go, oh dear. I'd been playing with a university band, so I grabbed hold of Steve. Somebody said to me, go and see this band called the Muff Woody Jazz Band. They have a kid playing with them who's amazing. Networking, of course. That was the first place I went to. I saw this. I said, you're it. I said, I got a gig next week. Would you like to be in the band? This is what I want to do. And he said, I'd love to, but I don't have a driving license. I'm too young. I was 18 over there.
How old were you at the time?
19. No, wait a second. I would have been older than that. I would have been, if he was 16, I was probably 23, 24.
So you're
an
old guy
compared to him.
in those days from,
No, but I'd been at it since I was 15 with all the other bands. But Muff Winwood, his brother stepped forward and said, I'll drop the guitar, clang, and I'll go on to bass. And I've got a driving license, and I'll bring him. So there was the bass, and there was the guitar. But he was ready to keep an eye on him as well, elder brother.
Yeah.
I just thought of something else about Gimme Some Lovin. The organ itself is such a fierce sound. Is it a unique organ, or is it the standard organ of the day turned up and amplified a certain way?
There's a trick there. First of all, it's not a B3. It's an M102. And we rewired it so that we could have the bass half through one stack of Marshalls and the keyboard through another stack of Marshalls.
Wow.
And what you're hearing is this thing over-recorded.
Is it
blasting
distorting?
away. Distorted, yeah.
Oh,
Which
yes.
everybody loves. They went, wow,
Yeah.
listen to that.
Yeah.
It was loud in the studio.
Let's, we could talk about 1 year for the whole half hour, but let's jump around a little bit.
Sure, yeah.
So you did solo stuff. You went to UA and at United Artists. Was that where you were doing A&R work?
Let's just get away from Winwood for a while. But when Winwood left and you were auditioning new people to replace him, did you have a lot of people come through? And
You've read the Q magazine article, haven't you? I knew where that was going. Well, amongst them, Terry Reid, Elton John.
these are people who weren't good enough.
No, it wasn't that they weren't good enough. Terry Reid, in fact,
Terry Reid would have been a perfect replacement.
Well, Screaming Lord Sutch called me up and said, "I got a dead ringer for you for Steve."
Yeah,
and I said, "Oh, okay."
Yeah,
and
sure.
you always listened.
Yeah.
And Terry is a wonderful singer. In fact, I was with Terry at BB King's just a few nights ago.
Really?
You know, we still socialize, and I think maybe we'll say, well, you know, Steve's been gone a long time. I think it's okay to take his place.
Terry, Elton John.
But Elton turned up in a milkman's outfit, you know, and I thought, we're not ready for cabaret yet. But I did take some of Reggie's songs at the time. One Time, Sometime, I Never, Tartan Painted Lady, and I said, we have to do these songs. This guy is really good, a really good writer.
Wow.
Was this before Bernie?
This is, no, he was writing with Bernie. They were staff writers then for Dick James. Because I was, after getting out of giving all the stuff to Chris Blackwell, I formed my own music publishing company with the help of Dick James. So I only have good to say about Dick James.
By the way, speaking of, the last time we probably will talk about Steve Winwood, the only voice, I hear a voice now that sounds a lot like him, and it's David Hidalgo from Los Lobos. I always think he's very similar.
Oh, Will Survive.
Yeah.
I went to see them at Universal not so long, well, maybe a few years back.
Yeah.
And I said, you've probably been told of the similarity. And he says, yes, I've heard it many, many times. But Peter Gabriel, similar. It's Phil Collins sometimes in some areas. But that's a unique voice that Steve has. I mean, he was a wonderful talent. And the moment I heard him at this little pub in Erdington, in the northern suburb of Birmingham, I said, you're it.
Okay, so after the band went through its motions and dissolved, and I know you went into record companies. You were an A&R guy, weren't you?
Yeah, it's hard to compress it all in. I know that you know, time is of the essence here, but
Well, tell it the way you want to tell it.
but I can do it in précis form, no problem. I went on to work with Eddie Hardin, and we wrote together. We wrote a song called "Don't Want You No More," which actually, you know, showed that we still had writers in the band. Well, the Allman Brothers cut this on the Beginnings album. It was the first track, if you remember. Sold enormous amounts of copies in America on Capricorn, I believe, with Frank Fenter. And an enormous check came to the door, and I'd never seen so much money in all my life. At the time, it was £5,000. Well, then that was we were talking earlier on. One of the kids was talking about Elvis's contract for 35 grand to RCA, whatever. Well, £5,000 in those days, you could buy a house with it. I mean, not anymore, of course. I mean, £5,000 won't even pay your dental bill these days.
So you wrote songs?
Yes. So we were able to continue there, and I toured with Dee Murray and Nigel Olsson in the band with me before they left me and went to Elton. That was Elton getting his own back for not taking him into the band.
That's what you get for not wearing a milkman's outfit.
But like that reminds me of Benny Hill. Remember the fastest milkman in the West? That was a #1 single over there. No, Muff Winwood and Elton have stayed very good friends, because I remember Chris sent Muff to poach Reggie, or Elton away from Dick James and try and get him into Ireland, you know, when Reggie was starting to happen. Because I remember talking to Dick James about that. I mean, there are many, many things behind the scenes which is funny. But I had, without realizing it, I had the knack of being able to find people, you know, and say, you. Reason we didn't take Terry, I got to go there real quickly, was that he wanted his father to be his manager and his auntie to be his agent. And I mean, if I had to talk to those two people to say we're going to play this in the key of G, that wasn't on. And so I told Terry, and Terry knows that.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so when I moved over to America at the end of '70, where I've been ever since, and they actually let me have an American passport. Thank you. I stayed playing and didn't really get into A&R. If we want to rush ahead, I used the languages that I'd got a degree in languages to do some translating to provide for the family, and didn't really like that, but I mean, I was able to do it. And I went and we reformed a band with Peter York, of course, who was the original drummer from the Spencer Davis Group, myself, Ray Fennick, Eddie Hardin, and Charlie McCracken was the bass player from Taste. And we did 2 albums produced by Roger Glover of the Purples, because of our connection there, the Friends again. 75, I went and did, what could be called A&R, artist development, with Island Records, because I thought Blackwell was going to finally cough up on the back monies, but that wasn't to be. I mean, he was having to spend the money trying just to keep the company afloat. Ahmet Erdogan named him the Babyface Killer. Isn't that a wonderful name? Wonderful name. So I did the A&R bit and worked Pacific Video, not far from
So how much
here.
money did you make off of those hits?
Well, if you want to go there, well, Blackwell really made the money from those hits.
I'm real surprised, yeah.
No, we're not surprised. I mean, he was so hurt when he said, "Are you accusing me of being a crook?" I said, "Yes."
So did you ever tally it up? Did you get $100,000? Did you get...
By the time the lawyers' fees, because we sued him, the original band, by the time the lawyers' fees were all paid, it was, most of it went to the lawyers, which it always does. I'd gone to Blackwell before and said, "Don't give the money to the lawyers." I said, you know, let us have it, please. You know,
We'll pay the
some
lawyers.
of it. And he said, no. He said, because I was the one who instigated the lawsuit. And he said, no, I'm after Muff and Steve, and because they had more money. But Steve was with Blackwell for a long, long time before he moved on to Virgin. Yeah, so in answer to your question, didn't make a ton of money from those, but strangely enough, they've been using them in movies, and things like The Big Chill was one of the first times, you know, that the song came in there. But what was intriguing is that Capitol, who bought the United Artists Liberty catalog some years back, originally Blackwell sold the 42 titles of the original Spencer Davis Group to UA for $180,000, slightly more than the $35,000 again for the Elvis contract.
Worldwide? I mean, he actually sold them?
He sold them to, no, just to United Artists in America. But we didn't know about that. Nobody knew about that until a friend of ours who worked for Nick Vinay, Norma Goldstein, was cleaning out the cupboard and said, "Spencer, I've got some papers for you here." I said, "How do you know they're my papers?" "Well, they've got your name on them." And right in there was the piece of paper with the sale on it. And when I sent a copy of that to Steve, it was hit the roof time. Yeah. But yeah, it was amazing what you find. And so I cornered him on that one.
To make sure we cover it, let's jump all the way to the 90s and talk a little about the bands you've been working with now. There's one that right now you've got a band, and right before that preceded a previous agglomeration.
Right. I still kept the Spencer Davis Group going. From time to time I'd go and do tours with Pete York, the original drummer, and we'd work with one of your favorites, Colin Hodgkinson, Miller Anderson, Fein guitar player, and a German keyboard player whom you guys probably don't know, Wolfgang Dahlheimer. And he's played keyboards with Chaka Khan, a whole bunch of people. He's a great arranger, great scorer. And he's that young element that makes us, the old farts, sound modern. I mean, because the guy will phrase and play, use keyboard techniques. So I still work with those guys. At one time I went out as a trio with Colin, Peter, and myself. Then we fattened it out with Miller, and then we had to run with Brian Auger, all of these people you know. But so the Spencer Davis Group has kept going in some form or another. It's always been
But the all-star aggregation that you're...
Then Jerry Corbetta and Mike Pinera called me up because I live in Northridge, around the corner from Jerry. Jerry said,
Jerry
Corbetta.
Corbetta
Corbetta
from
from
Sugarloaf,
Sugarloaf. I'm
and
sorry, I
Mike
should
Panera
qualify.
from Iron Butterfly.
well,
and
prior to that was Blues Image.
Blues Image,
He was a second generation Iron Butterfly. And the other person involved in that was Peter Rivera, the lead singer from Rare Earth. Great singer. Great singer.
So what was this band called?
That was called the Classic Rock All Stars, which is a great name. And rounded out by a bass player by the name of Dennis Noda, who was probably third generation Cannibal and the Headhunters. Young, because he was the youngest. Good musician, very good player.
Yeah.
But as you all know, Eddie Serrano was killed in a hit and run accident a few weeks back, which is very tragic.
And that was your previous All-Star aggregation.
So that was the Classic Rock All Stars. Then I had a run with them for about 3.5 years, and then I decided, we put a CD out with me on it, and then later on they put a double CD out without me on it when I'd gone, which is fair enough. You know. Now the one with me on has become the collector's item. I should have brought you one of those. I have some at home. So I worked with them for about 3.5 years and went everywhere. Went to Japan, went to, you name it, we went there.
And you were the guitarist?
Excuse me?
And you were the guitarist?
I played guitar along with Mike Panera. Fine guitar player. I mean, he's really, I mean, a lot of people don't know him, but when you get to see him, man, he's a one-man show, though, really, Mike.
But that's the
So
current.
now you're with a new group of All-Stars.
Then I got a call from Nick St. Nicholas, who was working with Michael Monarch, the two
Both-
guys.
both ex-Steppenwolf.
Both ex-Steppenwolf, yeah. And Nick told me he'd been talking to Denny Lane, and Denny would come here and do it. Been talking to
Denny Lane of Moody Blues
and Wings.
and of Wings.
And Wings.
Yeah, and then he called the two guys that had been with Toto. I think Bobby Kimball had a session
He's a
with,
singer with
and Fergie Ferguson was with them for about 3.5 years. Remember, Bobby was elbowed out of Toto, but I think he might be working with them, doing some new recording with them. Do we miss anybody? Randy Meisner, of course.
I missed a couple.
From the Eagles. Let's see, Randy, Denny, the Toto
Drummer.
singer, myself, Michael Monarch, and Nick St. Nicholas. So you've got.
And what's this band called?
This one is called World Classic Rockers. And when we go out en masse, I think there are 10 people on stage, slightly more than the 5 in the Classic Rock All Stars.
And this aggregation we can see sometimes ourselves right now because you're
Absolutely. Yeah.
playing LA at all?
We did this. I bought an attempt at recording at BB King's the other Saturday night, but we just went to the studio a couple of days
Barbecue
ago.
sauce got on the.
Excuse me?
Barbecue sauce got on stuff.
Didn't
Or
have
what
a-
happened?
didn't-
It didn't work. You said it was.
It wasn't going to work. I knew that.
Okay.
Yes, but BB King says great fried pickles. Highly recommended.
I like BB King's. I saw Mick Weaver playing there.
Is that one of the Weavers?
From Wind Decay Frog.
Okay. Okay.
The guy that replaced Steve in A Form of Traffic. Great player.
Okay.
Todd.
Todd, it's on you.
I don't know. Could you explain Winder K. Frog to me? I mean, I know of the band, but what was that? Was there an actual guy, or was it Steve playing under a pseudonym, or
No, it wasn't. It was Mick Weaver.
he was Winder K. Frog? He
Yes,
was,
he
was the
was.
keyboard player.
He was the keyboard player, and very fine keyboard player, because I remember Chris spent a lot of money, allowed him to buy a B3. We think we might have an interest in that, the original Spencer Davis. We won't go there. And he played with Dave Mason, Jim Capaldi, and Chris Wood. You know, if that's not Traffic without Steve. In fact, those two are running around now, Jim Capaldi and Dave Mason.
Calling themselves Traffic, aren't they?
Traffic's Jim Capaldi and Dave Mason.
Yeah.
The classic rock. Oh, I'm sorry. What's the name of the new
It's
one?
WCR.
World
It's
Classic Rockers.
much easier.
They are recording.
The first recording that we did actually it worked much better going into the studio and cutting the backing tracks, and then even on a quick basis rather than we were talking out in the lobby about the luxury of going into the studio for 6 months, closing it, and waiting for the muse to descend. Well, I don't think the record companies are too keen on that idea anymore. So the first thing is a calling card, like as we did with the Classic Rock All Stars. You record the hits that you're known for, and then a $64,000 question, new material. Well, that's what that's what I would like to do, and that's what I'm working on now, whether it be with the World Classic Rockers or for myself. You know, one way or another, you got to do new material.
There are also some Spencer Davis separate recordings from right now being done, or is it all World Classic Records?
I'm doing both. I'm doing some of my own, and also the World Classic Rockers is going on.
And when was the last time, you mentioned there's been a couple Spencer Davis groups. Obviously nobody's taking that group on the road without you, but when was the last time you put one of them on the road? It was just early 70s or something like that?
Which group?
Spencer Davis group.
Oh, it's been running just, you know, the hare and the tortoise. We're there. In fact, we're off to, where are we going? We're going off to Australia and Japan early spring. Well, but prior to that, there's the German November tour, which is coming up, which will take us into Switzerland and Austria. And then I think one day I'm going to come back and play the showcase at the Las Vegas Hilton with the World Classic Rockers. I'll play the 29th, leave on the morning of the 30th, and come and do the showcase.
You know, I should get credit for my foresight in this. I must be on a TV show in the 80s where I said Las Vegas is going to turn into old rock and roll, period, because these Wayne Newtons, Dean Martins can't last forever. It's irrelevant to people of our age, though we like it.
Yeah.
That it's just going to be completely the home for everything we like, really.
I sat down with Pete Rivera, drummer from Rare Earth, former drummer from Rare Earth, and I said, you know, when Mr. Sinatra goes, I said, you know, we are
We're
next in there.
Next
And
to
he
go?
looked
You
at
mean
me
next
and
to
he-
go?
Not to go, no, to be
okay.
on the.
Oh,
No,
I
no, I
see,
didn't
yeah.
mean it quite that way. Please, no. I said we're next in line, you know, to fill in take his shoes in the Las Vegas, you know, in the Reno and in the Laughlin and
Yeah.
so on and so forth. And that's actually happening.
We got to sign off now, and thank you very much, Spencer Davis. We'll just keep on talking, or keep on running, as we also said. Do you know anything?
Do I know anything?
Do you know
No.
anything at all?
No.
Okay. Because I forgot what I had this thought, and then I interrupted it and I lost it. Anyways, thanks very much for being here. You sound like you do most of your touring in Europe, overseas more than here. Would that be correct?
No, I do a lot in Europe. I'm very active. I mean, all over the place. In fact, a gig came in Buffalo in December, and I'm wondering whether to take my kayak and snowshoes.
Yeah, I was
with
about
me,
to say,
but,
yeah, Buffalo in December. They don't write songs about that.